It's about to take a turn. Okay. So get your beer open, and here we go. So we reset now. It's April 2018. I'm working as the assistant brand manager at this time, doing my thing. Show's going well. Out of the blue, I'm pulled down to the office, and I'm told Woods is going. Matt Woods is getting let go by 104.5, the team. I'm completely blindsided. Levac is completely blindsided. It's the producer for our show who used to be an intern for the station, who we love. Yeah, Woods will probably admit sometimes he screwed stuff up. That's life as a producer. You just heard me talking about it. We're not always going to be perfect. Producers get blamed for a lot of stuff. It happens in the business. If you're a young kid, try your best. Sometimes it's not going to always work. Woods will admit that. But he gets let go. And it sucks because that's somebody who's a part of your show. I didn't know. So you wonder, okay, so what's going to happen now? Now that Woods is no longer your producer, who's going to be your producer? They tell me that position can no longer be filled. So you start to wonder, like, okay, so if that position is no longer to be filled, then who is going to be our producer? You are not going to have a producer. Okay. So as Closer explained earlier in the podcast, that makes the show much more difficult when you're trying to do giveaways, when you're trying to do calls, when you're trying to do things that might have, just the show comes a little bit more difficult is the way I'll phrase that, to not be negative. I think that's the Closer.
Right.
Am I okay here? Am I covering myself well?
Yeah, you don't want to be negative, but what it does is it creates that buffer that you used to have. It creates problems to be able to do that. So a show that really started to take off, to take phone calls and have a real connection with the audience, you have to find different creative ways now to have that relationship with your audience that might not have been as easy as grabbing the phone and then going over the air with it.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, so that's a good way to put it there. So we fast forward to October of 2018. So it's October of 2018. There is a change in command at 104.5 team and overall Town Square Media in Albany. Kevin Rich now moves to market president. That's public information. You can look that up. Yep. I don't want to get into how the change is made. I think that's completely unfair. But let's just say Kevin is then promoted to market president. Kevin Rich, who you may have read a quote in the Gazette about, I consider a mentor in the business. Kevin, from the day I walked into that, because he also worked at the Score 1260, he helped me any way he could. Even when I was a producer, whether it was endorsements, live events, if Armin Levac can do an event, I stepped up, he let me do it. If something needed to be promoted, if it was a promotion, he always had my back. And what he did as soon as he got there and said, Goz, I know you don't have an agreement, contract, what's the other term I used? Offer sheet.
Offer sheet, yep.
Hey, there are people who are also working in this building who may benefit in certain ways. Again, I don't want to explain to dive too deep into Town Square. They offer some type of ways where you can financially benefit if you are doing this. What I'm going to do for you is, because you've earned these things, you're going to be rewarded financially because you've earned this. Another boss may have not done this for you, but one of my first things I'm going to do as a market president is financially reward you for what should have been rewarded because you didn't have this in front of you. So that shows how amazing that is. I just got married. I'm looking to buy a house. He could have done none of that. He could have said, hey, you're an idiot. Like, you didn't sign the piece of paper, man. If you signed it, you would have got the benefits, but you didn't sign the paper, so it's on you now. He went out of his way to take care of me, which that's amazing. Like, I don't know how often that's going to happen where someone's going to go out of their way and take care of you financially when they don't have to. So shout out to Kevin, and thank you for doing that, because that really meant a lot to me. And now my wife at that point. So that was really cool. Okay. So August 2019 is where things start getting a little messy again here. Okay. So that's about a year. That's pretty good. That's like, not much has been happening at 104.5 the team, but what has been happening is this. I'm in that role as the assistant brand manager now for 3 years. And a compliment to Steve Richards, compliment to everybody in the building, what they would do is I would be given more responsibilities, like just like a good employee. Hey, if Goz can do this, let's let Goz do this. If Goz can do that, let's let. So my responsibilities, because I was stepping up to the plate and wanted the station to do well, I wanted the show to do well, I wanted my interns and employees to do well. Whatever they asked me, I stepped up and did it. It just got to a point where I said, all right, guys, enough is enough. I think I've done enough over 3 years that it's time for me to become the brand manager of the station. There was one incident on like in August where I went home. I think I was doing like a fantasy football draft, and from like that Saturday to Sunday, I was never off the phone. Stuff was being thrown off the log. Explain quickly what a log is, because I think people won't know what that means.
Yeah, so log is basically what your commercial break looks like for a given hour. So when you would do Levac and Goz, you would have 4 breaks of commercials to break in between the segments. So usually you have a log set up for either a live show, or if you were listening to a Yankee game or any other broadcast of a game on there, that is a preset thing that board operators, people who are there working to make sure all the commercials play, are all set up there for you. So if something in that log is off, it will kind of screw everything up. So guys, and to kind of paint a little picture of how hard he's working for this brand manager position, this isn't a very flashy position. This is a grinding type of position where you are sitting at home at 10 o'clock at night because the Yankees are on the West Coast, and you're getting a call from somebody at the station to try and fix something to try and do it. It's not something that you're out there taking pictures and everyone knows about. Yes, it looks awesome on your resume, but you have to grind and work hard for something like this. And you mentioned earlier in the podcast, someone like Armin who has done that. Goz was also the one doing this too, that not a lot of people get to see that behind the scenes of the every day, every hour grinding to make sure that that station sounded as good as it could.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's like very well said by you. A lot of people don't understand that. So thank you for doing that. So in August 2019, a lot of stuff gets screwed up on the station. I'm on the phone the whole weekend. I'm like, okay, if I'm not the brand manager should handle these calls. If I'm the brand manager, I have no problem handling these calls. Mm-hmm. So I go in that Monday. I'm like, look, guys, enough's enough. Tell me what I'm doing wrong that I need to be promoted. I think it's time. So I'm waiting for them to give me a bad answer. Like, okay, yeah, we agree. And I'm like, wait, whoa. All I had to do was ask. Okay, all right. So
for you young broadcasters out there, remember that. It just takes you to ask maybe, and it could actually happen. There you go.
Seriously, like, again, closer, spot on. Like, if you're a young producer, if you're a young fill-in host, whatever, if the holidays are on the way and you're like, hey, can I fill in for a day? Just ask.
Yes.
If they say no, they say no. So I should have asked probably like a year earlier, like, hey, can I be the brand manager? I probably should, I waited 3 years. I just never asked. So finally I asked. They're like, yeah, okay. And I'm like, all right, I guess. So officially September 2019, I get promoted to brand manager of the station. There's a nice press release that's put out by me. That was a little negative. Just kidding.
That was a little negative there.
That was a joke. That was a joke. All right. I mean, we did 55 minutes of no jokes. My God. All right.
Oh, man.
So whatever. That's a joke. Come on.
That's okay. I got you.
Thank you to Jason Barrett, by the way, for putting that out. Anyways, so what happens is, because you get promoted at a new job, this agreement, contract, offer sheet, now that responsibilities have been added to my job, I will be compensated financially. All right. It's pretty cool. So I'm like, great, guys, you promoted me to brand manager. Cool. Like, all right, so let's do it. So they're like, all right, well, I'm just going to go with agreement from now on, because I think it's going to be really tedious if I keep doing the same 3 things. We'll call it agreement.
Yep.
Hey, your agreement's on the way. Let's just trust us. It's coming. Okay, cool. So once a month I'd stop in and be like, hey, just checking up on the agreement. Let's see what's going on. Okay. October, there's no agreement, but I'm the brand manager. I got the title, but no money. Mm-hmm. November, no agreement. Okay. December, no agreement.
See the trend. Yep.
So I'm like, by December, I'm like, okay, I asked for it in the fall. I'll probably get it in the start of the new year. That's fine. So I have no agreement up until like the last week of January is when we went to the Super Bowl, and I was pretty sure I was going to get an agreement by the last week of January financially, because now I've been doing the job for 5 months and I haven't been compensated. So the offer finally comes, I think, the day I get back from, where were we? Not Miami. I don't think it matters. We were at some Super Bowl. I think it was Atlanta. So I come back. Yeah, I come back and the offer is in front of me. And I was like emotional in the office because of how low the offer was. Like, I was like heartbroken, closer, that I had done this job for 3.5 years. I had busted my tail. They said, all right, here's your offer. And I was just like devastated. I'm like, oh my God, dude, like, did I do something wrong? Did I say something? Are you guys
Right.
holding a grudge against me? Like, what did I do wrong? So they said, okay, what's a number you're considering that would work? I said, okay, like we're having a negotiation. This is life. Look, again, getting there with Goz, you're going to go through jobs, whether it's a sales position or whether it's a management position, where this is negotiations. This is my
Right.
first true what am I, 29 at this point? This is my first true contract negotiation, agreement negotiation of what's going on. So I say, okay, here's my offer. Here's what I think I should be making. They said, okay. So they come back with a second offer for me. However, this is February of 2020 now. The day they come back with that offer, and I'm not talking day, I'm talking within 60 minutes of that offer coming, an hour before, they let you go. Closer, who's sitting here with me, the day they come back with my other offer, they blindside me, who is now the brand manager of the station, who is supposed to be running everything, who is supposed to have the ins and outs, and we've explained it a bunch of times on what happens. My guy on the middays, my guy who's covering Saratoga, I have no idea he's getting let go. No pre-warning, no email, no conversation. I got nothing. So, Closer, I know I've had this conversation with you a bunch. I feel for you. You're going to cover your story in the upcoming podcast. So just to clarify that, and again, I've been told multiple times, I believe them. This is another part of the podcast. You can believe what you want. I was told that my raise did not have any effect on Closer being let go. I shrug my shoulders. If you're watching just on the podcast, that's what I was told. So I don't think we've been negative yet, right?
And for the record, obviously, we know that we are very good friends. I never thought that was the case. And whether it was or not, it was something that, especially even with the news that came with me, and we'll cover that on the next episode, but it was something that I felt that working side by side with you for almost 4 years at that point, that you'd absolutely deserve. So
thanks, man. And again, I hope right there's no negativity. We're being pretty clean with this. We're just telling the story honest as we can. So that exactly what happened. So imagine I'm sitting there crying. I'm hugging Closer because I feel like an awful friend. I'm like, this guy's at my wedding. We've hung out a bunch of times, and I'm watching my friend get fired. I'm in the meeting because I'm the brand manager. I couldn't give him a heads up. Like if I gave Closer a heads up, like, hey, they're probably going to let you go in a month, you probably wouldn't have felt as bad because I'm like, hey, I'm being a good friend here. Right. And that's the thing I'm still learning in my life. And I'm sure maybe we have more brand managers and business people on. Like, it's really hard to make friends if you're the boss and all that other stuff. But I felt like we are friends. So I wish I could have given you a heads up. I didn't. I felt very emotional about it. So I'm sitting there like wiping tears away, letting my friend lose his job. And they're like, all right, so let's talk about your new agreement. I'm like, oh my God, what am I, Ebenezer Scrooge? My friend just left the door. Now you want to give me a raise? My God. So I'm like, okay, all right. So I believe it's like February 21st. I signed the new agreement. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on this next conversation. Okay, so let's just say it like this. The raise does not go into effect the day I sign it. There is like a little bit of a template that, okay, your raise is going to come later in the agreement. I think that's about as well as I can do that. Okay.
Right. Yep.
Okay, so March 2020. We all know what that is, right? That's COVID. So I am off on March 9th. I intentionally took that time off that week because that was the conference tournament week. So
the greatest time of the year.
Right. So there's two reasons I took that time off. One is because it's the conference tournament week. The next week will be March Madness, and Levac and I are usually out that week. So I want to make sure I'm available for all that. My wife is pregnant, so I know I'm not going to have a lot of other times where I'm sitting back, drinking beer, watching basketball because babies are going to be running around and everything else. And this part you're going to have to explain. That's also what's out of what's called the spring book. So there's a lot of different books in radio. Kind of explain a little bit what like a book is and a rating system is. So for those who may not be aware.
Yeah. So the book is in a time frame of 3 months where you look at important times of the year where either new sponsorships are coming in or there's important parts of the calendar where there are ratings that are looked at more than others. So when more important events in the sporting calendar are happening. So the spring book, when you come around to obviously baseball starting in the area, when you have college basketball just ending, and then a lot of, playoff time with hockey and NBA comes around. Then you get to the fall book where football starts again, or you have a lot more when it comes to other sporting events getting started up or the World Series. That's another important book as well. So you hear a lot of radio. Most people, when they don't listen to a lot of radio, is during the summer because you're out doing other things. You're not really intently listening as opposed to those 2 times of the year.
Yes, thank you. So exactly right. So that whole happens. That's why I take that time off. So as we all know, the world changes that week. sports are shut down, everything happens. So I'm informed verbally, I think in late March. I'm sorry I'm missing the time because the verbal conversation is a little harder to track verbal conversations.
Sure.
At some point, I'm told, hey, your raise was supposed to go in effect soon because of the world changing. We're going to put that on pause. And I said, duh, like, of course, like,
Right.
I'm not an idiot of what's going on. The world is where we have a pandemic. Of course, I'm not going to be like, hey, I know there's a pandemic going on, but I need my money. Some people, honestly, though, like some
there
people
are people
yes,
that absolutely would do that.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And there's probably some people listening like, whoa, guys, like, here's a mistake you're making. You've got it in writing. Your contract says you're getting paid this day. You better start pressing to get paid that day. I could have. Maybe I should have. I thought I was being a good employee saying, let's just do my thing. I know we're under a lot of stress. Within that building, there were some layoffs. I'm not going to be the guy saying, I know we're laying people off, but I want my money. I just decided I'm not doing that.
Right. And you being the brand manager, obviously the first thing of taking that role is you're putting the brand of 104.5 The Team before yourself. So I think that was going through your mind as well, not only with what's happening inside the building, but what's going on outside of it as well.
Yeah. So that's what happens there. Also that Friday. So of that week, I am off. Again, I'm now the serving brand manager of the station. I'm at like a grocery store like Friday afternoon, just running errands, doing the daddy list, the hubby do list, all that stuff. I get a call. I can't remember who it was. Somebody in a management position there locally had said, hey, just want to let you know we're letting Chris Honorado go. And I'm like, guys, I'm the brand manager. Can I get a heads up? Can someone tell? It's my station.
Right.
I'm supposed to be the boss. If you let me into a meeting and said, hey, man, here's what our finances look like. We can't do this if Chris is here. You got to talk to Chris about taking a pay cut. Like, anything. Just give me a heads up. Or I can talk to Chris. Anything.
Right.
I got nothing. And if Chris is listening, Chris, I hope you know that you and I have had this conversation. Again, blindsided for a second time now as the brand manager that a producer, and he was a host on Big Board Sports,
right,
is being let go by the company. I didn't know. So again, sorry, Chris. That's all I can say on that. Again, I'm not trying to be negative. I'll just leave it at that. I just didn't know. I was blindsided just like Chris was. So.
Not trying to be negative, and I don't want to put words in your mouth too, but I think it's just a feeling of not only do you want to be able to talk to your coworkers and or friends about if this decision is being made or why, but obviously if you're the last line between the higher ups and the people that are working now for you on this station, you feel like you should be the one that wants to either talk to them or break these news if that's the case.
I got told over the phone.
Which is even worse, right?
Chris, Chris can talk to us about this later on, but like if you're working for a brand manager for a station and they can't even face-to-face tell you you're getting let go, I think there's something that's wrong with that. And if I was in the meeting with Chris and got let go, I think I don't know if he cares if it was respect or anything like that. I think he knew just like I did, like I didn't know it was coming, man. I just didn't. So, okay. So again, this part's going to get a little tough. So this part coming up here is going to get really confusing. We're going to do our best to go through because it's very radio heavy here. And for those of you waiting for the juice, it's coming. I promise. This is where it really
wait it out here.
This is where the match gets set here. Okay. So April 2020, we all know in the sports world changes. There is no basketball. March Madness is canceled. Guys, it's COVID 2020. Sports are not happening. So our company, Town Square Media or whatever, like it's like any other company. Like we're, how do I phrase this? They are aware of how things are happening on the station. Is that good?
Mm-hmm.
They have a, I want to make sure I don't get myself in trouble. They are aware of ratings, revenue, digital, performance, on air, relevancy, any other radio station, okay? So they keep track, like most stations do, whether it's podcasts like here, television stations, they keep track of that stuff. So they're watching how our digital numbers are performing. So I don't want to dive too deep into how they do digital because I think that's too much of an inside stuff on Town Square. So I'm going to stay away from that. I'm not going to dive into what those numbers mean or anything. Right? Is that
right? And to make it as simple as possible. Most companies look at how often either one you hear ratings is how often people are listening to the station live, and then other ones are how often you're visiting that website. And that's what they try to follow. So you can get more traction when it comes to that.
Okay. And let me phrase it like this. Town Square, at least in Albany, podcasts are not available to listen to on their respective websites.
Right.
So it may be a medium like a podcast may not be, at this time when this is recording, something that factors into how they grade digital numbers. Other things that are featured within Town Square Media sites may or may not. So that's where I'm going to leave that where it comes to digital.
Sure.
That's the best I can do
Yeah.
without giving away secrets, which I think would be completely unfair because some of my coworkers benefit from those things, and I don't want that information to get out there of how they would benefit or be harmed in any way by people finding out. So sorry if you want to start. Go at him, God.
Stoke the fire.
Man. Yes. My God, Goz is gonna get him now. That's where I'm gonna sit on the digital stuff.
Gonna get my cowboy hat so I can go full on JR.
Oh God, that's Goz. Get him, buddy. So let's just phrase it like this: our digital numbers suck. All right, like at that point, not in general. Like over the last few years, we did great. We, sometimes we benefit in ways that were, let's say, positive for us to phrase it like that.
Yes.
But what happens is when closer is let go, and when Chris is let go, what had happened was that a number was set that, hey, you got closer, you got Chris, you got Roger, you got Levesque, you got Goz. We're looking at the numbers. Okay, this is what it should be. Okay, cool. We got goals. Great companies always set goals for everybody. Here's your goal. Try to hit your goal. Okay, so closers let go, and Chris is let go. All right, what's our new goal? Oh, no, your goal's the same. Wait, what? Yeah, your goal's the same. It's not going to change. I'm like, hang on, though. We don't have as many people contributing now. Shouldn't the goal be adjusted? Like if you work in sales, maybe if you have less salesmen, you might want to say it's going to be difficult. Like COVID, by the way, I'm not making an excuse now. Like we all went through stuff in COVID, whether you're a business owner, whether we all have gone through COVID. Things got tougher for everybody. So I'm not making an excuse in any way, but our numbers were not adjusted with what was happening. So if it was a regular April, May, June with NBA Finals, NFL Draft, baseball, Yankees in full swing, Albany, Siena, of course our station would do better digitally because we're talking about sports. If you listen to Levesque and Goz from April to July, we did our best.
Yeah.
Here's how I describe the digital situation and how sports radio went from April to July. I'm a fan of the Baltimore Orioles. If the Orioles stink, it's going to be hard to pack Camden Yards. Not because they're not passionate Oriole fans. It's because the product that's being put on the field is something that's not interesting to the fans of Baltimore. If I'm a sports radio station and I'm not talking about sports, that may not interest my listener. I would love to give you my top 5 wrestling matches of all time. I would love to break down CT's top 6 moments on the challenge. Or is Floribama Shore the greatest reality show?
All right. Now come on.
Am I negative? Am I being negative? I didn't include Jersey Shore. But yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, as much as I would love to have an ego and think everybody and everything I say people care about, I am fully aware that if you are a sports station, people may go to your station for just sports. And if sports are not being played, they may not go to your station. That's why.
Sure.
And so this happens from April to like August. So I'm not going to say who said this to me, but one time I get a call from somebody and they're like, hey, Goz, like you're the brand manager, even though you're not being compensated. All right, that was negative.
That was negative.
Negative. Sorry. But I just had to remind people that the contract is still frozen because time had passed.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that was fair.
It was a negative to start, but you saved it afterwards.
Okay, thank you. That's why you're there, closer.
That's
okay.
It.
So I get a call from somebody that says this. Hey, your guys' digital numbers are struggling. I'm like, yeah, man, I think it's because there's no sports. And they're like, well, what else could it be? I'm like, no, I think that's it, man. I think that's the reason. I think it's just we don't have sports going on right now. They're like, no, there might be something else. I'm like, I don't know. They're like, what if we try this? What if you guys write less about sports? I know you're the ESPN station. I know you're 104.5 The Team. I know people are coming for sports. Let's try this. Let's try to do less about sports. And again, I won't say who said that to me. I think honestly, truly, they were trying their best to help us out. I honestly believe that. They're like, hey, these guys are struggling. I want to help. I don't really have a great idea to fix this, but let's try this. And I respect it. Like if someone's going to go out and reach out to you and help you out and try to help you out, like great, like cool. I don't think it was a benefit for us trying to navigate away from sports, but look, our numbers sucked. And that's all I can say about that. I own that. That's my fault. Like, I'm the brand manager. I'll step up and say, here's another part of the podcast. if you had an idea of how I could have done something better in COVID to improve our digital numbers, I wish I would have heard from you. I wish I could have heard from you. That's all I would have said. And somebody's probably wondering, like, how could we helped you out? Blah, blah, blah. I won't get into that. It's just, I think it's irrelevant at this point.
Right.
All right. So I have this date written down. Okay. So we fast forward to August now. It's August 20th. I get an email on August 20th. Now, COVID is at a weird spot now, if you remember. Like, the cases are sort of going down, and we think we're going to get out of it in like August and September because football's coming back. It's a weird time, if you can remember, late August of 2020. So I get an email that says, hey, thank you for being patient, guys. I want to let you know your raise is going into effect October 1st. Like, awesome. Hey, there you go. I benefited from being a good employee. Didn't raise my mouth, didn't complain. Yeah, I'll get my butt kicked right now digitally. We're trying our best, everybody, but cool. Like, all right. Now, I will fully nope, I won't say that. I was going to say I fully admitted something's going to go on. I'll keep that. That's a little too negative. I'll keep that to myself. I'll say that.
Okay.
I'll say that the race is going into effect October 1st. I get pulled into a meeting on, I believe, the 28th is that Monday. I'm sorry I'm missing the date here. Whatever that final Monday in September was. Levac is in the meeting with me. We are told that Levac and I, just us, are going on a performance improvement plan, a PIP. So if you've worked in a business before, a PIP is basically, hey, your work isn't very good right now. We got to change some stuff.
Right.
Your focus is digital. So here's the goals for you guys. You got to do X amount of stuff on social media. I don't want to dive into what exactly we had to do. I think, again, it's secrets of what that business does.
Sure.
Let's just say we have to be more active through our social media platforms.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Here's the numbers you have to hit through your social media platforms. Cool. All right. I can do that.
Right.
Hey, if anything, to be completely honest, yeah, it sucks that you're getting called out. It's like you're getting an effing class, you're going to fail. But we think if you follow this plan, you can pass the class.
Right.
Hey, I'm looking for something. If you guys think this is going to work, more power to you. I actually appreciate it. Yeah, it's putting pressure on me, but let's make this thing happen.
Sure.
So we follow everything in that. Now, the deadline for that is October 28th. So after that 30 days, we'll reevaluate. October 28th is my birthday. So I've been telling my wife, I'm like, look, I'm going to do my best. I'm on a PIP. I know what it is right now in 2020. We're getting our butts kicked. Our goals haven't been adjusted. I'm trying my best. Maybe I'm going to get let go on my birthday. Maybe I'm going to get fired on my 31st birthday. So you can tell, like, once the PIP is signed on October 1st, there is a sense, like anybody would have, hey, your job is now in jeopardy. Let's see what happens. So what happens though after October 28th is that we, on that original PIP, we hit everything. Here's everything you've laid out. Boom, you're good. Cool. All right, awesome. At this time, if you're wondering, okay, guys, you said your raise would go up on October 1st. What happens when you're on the PIP? My raise is frozen. So even though I was promised it would hit October 1, that is not happening at this point. Okay. So what happens on November 1st, we don't have a meeting, I believe, on October 28th. If we did, it might have been, I got to admit, I'm totally forgetting what happened here. We may or may not have had a meeting. My memory's been great for about 75 minutes. I think we had a meeting. And
okay.
I think in the meeting we said new goals are going to be developed for you guys for 2020 and on. I'm like, wow. Like, not only did we hit what we needed to hit, but now we've had a conversation and my stuff saying, hey, I think we should adjust this because our staff is smaller, is now being heard. Awesome. Like, great. So we have a meeting. It's me, Levac, and two other people. And they say, okay, guys, here are your new November, December, January, go through the whole list of the year. Awesome. Cool. The goals are significantly lower. I think they're much more fair. So I'm like, great. Like, hey, we needed that kick in the ass that we needed, and we're good to go. Like, we're rolling now. Let's do this. Okay. So November's hitting, and we're crushing it. Like, hey, here's your new goals. Here's everything you got to do. Boom, the numbers you set for us, we're back. And now I would love to say Goz is the man. He's the best brand manager. He stepped up. He got the kick in the ass he needed. I think the reason our digital numbers went up is because sports came back. Hot take. Like, whoa,
boy.
God, no. Whoa. So you're telling me
you were waiting for that one, man.
Hey, sports came back and you think your station did better. Wow. Good job, man. Like, what I mean? Like, I wish I could take credit and be like, all that stuff we figured out in those last 6 months or 8 months. I think it's as simple as sports returned. people were more interested in sports again. We saw a boost from sports returning.
Yep.
That's not negative, right? I feel like that's a pretty fair take. I'm not trying to take a shot at anybody or anything they thought. That's just my personal opinion of why I think we improved in November.
Yeah, and if you look at obviously being a part of that, station and digitally as well, it does well when either local teams or when there's actual sports happening. So I don't think that's way too far-fetched to think that when sports came back that your digital numbers went back up.
Okay, cool. So what happens next is extremely confusing. And to this day, as we're recording, I'm still confused about. So I start hearing rumblings that the people who set our goals have decided because the team is doing so well, the goals are too easy. So even though now Levac and I are technically sort of kind of maybe not even really off the pip and we're kicking butt again, and Roger, of course, like, hey, we think they're too easy now. And me hearing that, and I wish I could dive deeper into this, but I can't really source it. It's kind of like hearsay, which is a little unfair, but
right.
I want to be like, okay, like, what are we doing? Are we changing the goals? Like, you gave me a goal, I hit the goal, and now because I hit the goal, you want to change the goal.
Right.
So, okay, you know what? I'm going to just thank you for whoever gave me the heads up. We'll see how this goes. So I get pulled into another meeting on December 1st, right around like late November, early December. Levac's in the meeting again with me as well. We hit all of our November stuff. I'm told in this December meeting, we're going back on the pip. And I'm like, what happened?
Right.
What you guys just told me I was on a pip. I hit all the numbers. I'll prove it to you. Here are the numbers. I sit in the meeting. I'm like, tell me what I did wrong. Did I miss did I miss something? Hey, maybe I made a mistake. Mm-hmm. I'll own it. What did I do wrong?
Right.
I really don't get the answers that I want in that meeting.
Yeah, some clarification, right.
Yeah, like, hey, if I'm back on, like, hey, did I fail a test? Did I fail a quiz? Did I put up? Right. What did I do wrong? I really don't get the answer that I want in that meeting. I don't want to talk about how Levac talked in the meeting. That's for him to discuss. I'll just do my side of the story. So we get a new set of goals. So here's where it's really, again, strange. I have one set of goals here that's written down, says this is what 104.5 the team has to do. But now there's a second set of goals that have now been dropped on us. So these second set of goals, I won't dive into the specific numbers, but here's how I'll phrase it. And these are true, and you can look these up. By saying look at these up, I mean if someone said I'm not telling the truth here, you can Ken Shaw, Pete Doherty, go find these numbers. There you go, man. Like if you don't, somebody can find them.
Sure.
What they decided to do is to tell me in the month of December, holiday break, Christmas, Levac, myself, you guys now have to put up the highest numbers ever recorded in the history of 104.5, the team. For perspective, if you averaged out the last 4 years of the team and their digital numbers in December, your goal needs to be this month alone triple of the average of the last 4 years, nearly triple. So that's what it is. You have to put up record-setting numbers this month or else. And in comparison to the past 4 Decembers, you need to triple your UVs. And I'm like, okay. So I see this next one, and I come home to my wife, and I say, well, Jordan's been a good run.
Right. It hits you a little bit, right. Yeah.
But, I understand at that point what's going on when you're given an opportunity and someone says, here's your goals, here's what you have to do, and then you hit that, and then it's changed. And then you're just like, okay. I see what's going on here. Like, you're going to try to say it's a performance-based firing at some point because technically here's the performance you've asked for. Right. And if I don't hit the performance that you ask for, you can say it's performance-based. And we'll get to that quote later on from the Gazette. So again, if you're a lawyer, if you're a fan, if you're somebody, that's my side of the story. They asked, by the way, again, one more time, just to clarify for people wondering, it's December 1st. That contract raise is not hit yet, even though I may or may not be off the PIP. I don't understand to this day whether I was or I wasn't, but a new PIP is now put in front of me, so I know I'm back on one. But those are the numbers. Again, not to get specific of what they are, how they are. On average, from 4 years previous, our station needed to basically triple what they wanted. And Levac and I had to personally hit the highest numbers ever achieved by anybody in the history of 104.5, the team, in a month that features Christmas, New Year's Eve, and the holidays.
Right.
And by the way, I had, I think, 6 days off. Levac had a few. We had a plan, so there you go. So, yeah. If you're listening to this part of the story, you're kind of like, crap, guys. Like, I feel for you at this point. Like,
right.
I mean, yeah, your guys' numbers should have been better digitally, but what are you supposed to do? And they changed your numbers on you, and this sounds really shitty. It's like, yeah, it is. It sucks at this point. So I kind of know, like, all right, it's coming. So, I mean, we fast forward through the holidays and everything else. So we're supposed to reconvene after this PIP on Christmas Eve, not Christmas Eve, the 1st January back.
Right.
So we don't have a meeting scheduled for January. And I'm thinking like, all right, maybe something's good. Because on that second set of goals, not the triple and all that other stuff I got to do, the original goals we were given for the year have all been achieved.
Right.
They've been hit. So the original goals we were given months ago, we've hit. We actually beat it by a significant margin. We're good. So we don't hear what's next. I'm waiting around. Am I on this PIP? Am I not on this PIP? What's going on? So we got nothing like for 2 weeks for the station. So January 18th rolls around. I'm walking to work in a Tom Brady jersey. I'm so pumped. The Buccaneers are there. Levac and I have done 14 straight shows together. 14. And then I get in around I usually got in around 11:30 because of COVID. Stayed out of the building a little longer. Did some digital stuff back in my house. I think Levanka today, they want to meet with us later. I said, okay, cool. Let's find out what's going on. It's been 2 weeks, almost 2.5 weeks. What's happening? What's the new goals? What's going on? And then Levac says, no, Levac didn't say anything. Somebody brought me down. I think it was Kevin Rich brought me down and said, hey, we want to meet just with you. Pointed to me. And I knew right then, I'm like, no.
Right.
Get hand. No. So look.
And it's your suspicions all coming together in one moment. Yeah.
Look, October, you guys heard the stories, the digital stuff, the pips, even though I was hitting my numbers and I'll prove it and anything else. Did I hit what they had on the pip? No. You've heard exactly what I wanted to say. And that's the story, basically, of what happened. That's why I was let go. I've got 5 questions here that everybody's asked me, and I got about another 10 minutes, I think, left of this. Closure, did I miss anything? Do you think I scooted over anything before I get these questions and wrap up and then get to our next episode coming up?
I think that's pretty well covered, man. It's just a lot of inside stuff that I don't think people really realized. So, and I think you did a good job making sure people can understand, at least make their own opinion on what happened. Yeah.
And if people want to say Goz got screwed or you should have done this better, or look, my email, my podcast, my Twitter, you can, this is what I want to have happen.
It's open, right?
Right. Maybe somebody had this discussion. Maybe somebody's gone through this before. I'd love to hear how it went down with you, but that's the real story. I'm going to go through these questions here real quick.
All right.
Top 5 questions I've gotten since I've been left. I feel like that's Letterman. Didn't Letterman used to do
that? Top 10, but you got top 5. You cut it for time.
Most frequent question I'm getting: what is your relationship like with Levac? Did you guys have a spat? Did you guys have a fight? Mm-hmm. This is not like Adam versus CT in the Challenge Duel 2. Go look that up on YouTube if you don't know what that fight's all about. Levac and I are friends. We've been texting this week. I'm bummed that I don't get to see him every single day. Like I just said, I was with him for 14 days. I've been over to his house. I plan to have him over for the McGregor fight this weekend. Mm-hmm. I think I told him if I didn't text you this, Levac, I should have. I just needed a little bit of space, and I just didn't want to sit there and rant and rave about a company, which I would have done in a non-forum like this.
Right.
But he's my friend. I'm rooting for him. He's a unique talent. He's awesome. I wish I could give him a big hug right now. I don't know if he's proud of me for doing this or he's pissed at me for doing this. Maybe he heard stories he never heard before, but I can say nothing but good things about Levac. Here's, I think, the biggest compliment I can give Levac. Before I taped this, my mom, my dad, and Jordan, my wife, all said, whatever you do in that podcast, you don't talk bad about Levac because he's always been good to you. He's your friend. And yeah, that's absolutely true. So when you can make a connection with my family like he did, really cool stuff. So love that dude. Next question. What is your relationship like with Roger? Did Roger have anything to do with this? Is there a beef between you and Roger Weiland? Blah, blah, blah. No. Here's what I'll say about Roger. It is an absolute shame that he is not in the New York State Broadcasting Hall of Fame. When I moved out here to Albany and I read about his credentials, his career, and his accomplishments, the fact that the New York State broadcasters have not put him in the Hall of Fame, and it's 2021, is an absolute travesty. Please put Roger Weiland in the Hall of Fame. The guy's done this for 30 plus years. He's talked to everybody. Go look at upstate New York. Mm-hmm. I will stack his career up against anybody, man. And we're talking about getting there with Goz. Young broadcasters, 20-somethings. You want to intern with somebody? I swear to God, I truly mean this. If you have a goal and you're 22, your goal should be when you're 40 or 50 to have the career Roger has. Yep. To do what he does, to connect to the area, Seriously, that's a career you should strive to have, because it's a shame he's not in the New York State Broadcasting Hall of Fame. And Roger, if you get in because of this podcast, I want a nice big thing of wine. All right, seriously.
Well, not only we'll get into like the next episode as well, because I have a lot to say too about Roger and how much he's been able to help multiple people's careers. So any young broadcasters, no doubt about it, take a look at it. If you don't know what we're talking about, you have Google, look it up, and you'll be able to see what he's been able to do in his 30 plus years in this area.
And I'm just tighter with Levac than Roger, and I don't see Roger as much because it's just different shows and stuff. So yeah, shout out to Roger and all the good things he's done. Third question, guys, are you staying local? That's an interesting question. My plan is to stay local. Here's my theory on that. If you were to ask me when I was 5, 6 years younger, you've heard the stories in this podcast. Like, I looked at stuff out of market. What's changed in my life is that I have a house, I have a wife, I have a kid, I have friends, I have family, and I have connections to businesses here in the capital region that I don't consider them sponsors or businesses. And throughout these podcast careers, those are my friends. Like, the fact that some of these unbelievable people stood by me during a really difficult time for their business and said, don't worry about it. Like, we've got your back. You've done stuff for us. I want to stay with you. I would say their name, but I think legally I got to be careful because of stuff on this platform. But I don't want to leave because I built relationships with these people. Like, I feel like here in the capital region, this Getting There with Goz in a podcast format and connecting with people in the capital region, I think capital region sports fans deserve something like this. And I'll even go a step further because I have these connections to Geneva and Syracuse and Watertown. You hear all about these stories. I think just upstate New York in general needs stuff like this. Because if you look across the whole upstate New York area, not counting New York City, obviously that's downstate. WGR 550 is the home of the Bills. We all know how powerful that is. And a lot of those guys are full-time radio hosts. But once you move away from Buffalo, there's not a lot of guys who are just doing this as a platform. Like, I'm going to talk about sports. This is my gig. I'm going to give you the best content every single day. I want that to be this. Whether you're from one of these upstate New York cities, I want the platform to be, let's promote with your business. Let's get evergreen content on here. Let's talk about sales. I think staying here locally, I want to continue to build with people here in the capital region and upstate New York, that I want to have this platform build like that. So the world is different now. I know 20 years ago, people would market chase, but I think the podcast format can keep us local. And I hope by staying local, which is my goal because my life has changed, that benefits people. So that's kind of, I know I'm getting that question a lot now. Look, could an offer come across the table and I sit down with my wife and say, we have to consider this? Of course. But I think my goal would to be stay in the capital region and help out local businesses and help out formats like this and give this a shot. Because I hope that a lot of people like what I've said today, and I hope a lot of younger people or people want to get into a profession or people learning can learn from this. And I really, really mean that.
And quickly before you move on, I know you're going quick here, guys, but for younger broadcasters and that, goals can change. As well as you come out of college or whatever, you have these goals and you want to do it. I'm not saying to not strive for them, but as you are in the business or go from one job to the next within the business, your goals are going to change. And that's okay. So don't look at that as something that's a negative thing. Your goals are allowed to change and you'll be able to work around them.
Yep. 2 more here. What do you think is next for 104.5, the team? I don't know if I want to offer a prediction for that because here's my fear for the team. Like, if I start saying what I think is going to happen, they might somebody over there might hear, well, Goz said this, so let's do the opposite to prove him wrong. I don't think the people over there are like that. I can't speak for everybody. I can't speak for corporate, but there's a chance by me predicting something that it might hurt a candidate. If you asked me who I think should be the next co-host with Levac, I have a list of 10 people I think have that job that should have that job. I have 5 in particular and 4 that I think no doubt should get the job. There's 4. I wish, and if they're listening right now, you know who you are because I've reached out to all of you. I wish I could say your name right now and promote you and tell you how great you are. But my fear is that if I start to basically promote you now, that someone's going to maybe get rubbed the wrong way, be like, oh, he's Team Goz and he doesn't work here. So I don't want my endorsement to hurt their future achievement. So for that reason, I feel like I'm on Shark Tank. For that reason,
I'm out. Kevin O'Leary.
Right. So please, if you've worked with me and and I've reached out to you this week, I would love to give you an endorsement right now to be Levac's new co-host. Just understand the format I'm in. I don't want you to get undercut by this.
Right.
Good closer. Is that the right way to do that?
That's
You know what I
good,
mean?
man. No, I
Okay.
agree, and I think we've talked about that, and I would agree with you. I think they know that you have their back and whatever, but it's probably not the right format to go and do that. I would agree.
And this is the last thing I'll close with. What's up with the Daily Gazette comments? So you can find the Daily Gazette comments. I don't even want to share them. I don't even want to because he's going to get the clicks. Let me tell the Daily Gazette story quick. Here's what happened. I get fired. Ken Schott calls me. He is a local reporter in Albany.
Mm-hmm.
Want to get a scoop on what happened. So basically what happened was I was in East Greenbush, which for those who aren't from the area, that's like 45 minutes from where I live and 45 minutes from the station because it was Martin Luther King Day. My wife, the day off, she's visited her sister-in-law. Didn't want to be by myself. I ever got fired. So I'm out in like the boondocks of Albany. And Shots calling me. So I'm like, all right, so just imagine, put yourself in my spot here. You just heard my whole story. I just lost my job. I got my baby boy here with my wife. My sister-in-law is visiting. I'm ticked. What do I do? So you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cool off. I'm going to eat lunch. Probably pace around like an idiot and just annoy my wife and my sister-in-law and watch a Rex roll around my son. And I'm going to be cool and let me do my best answer possible. I said, you know what? I'm just going to, sorry, Ken. I just gave you cliche answers. And if Ken doesn't believe that, play the audio. Closer. I was annoyed by myself. As a radio host, my answers are so cliche. And I'm like, oh, God, this interview sucks. Like in my head, I'm like, oh, God, that's terrible. Like, I'm like,
this is not what's supposed to be happening right now.
Why didn't I just say we take it one show at a time? We're going to do our best. I'm out here trying to do my job, but I don't have one. Like, I'm trying to like cliche my way out of it. So if you read the quotes, I basically said a cliche answer of, it's 2020 has been a hard year for everybody in the radio business and the media business. Wow. Hot take, guys. Water's wet. Sky is blue. Like, I gave the most cliche, and the reason I gave the cliche answer, because some people are hearing this and they're like, guys, that was your opportunity to rip them. That was your opportunity to go in and start this thing and start a war and make it AEW versus WWE. Like, that was your moment where you should have ripped them. The reason I gave Ken Schott cliche answers was that I wanted to protect 104.5, the team. I didn't need them to get dirty laundry aired out. And I think hopefully after hearing this, I didn't air a lot of dirty laundry. Maybe some will disagree with that. Try to be as positive as I could through this podcast. I didn't want to undercut anybody there. I tried my best to protect a station that had just let me go with that quote. Did I do a good enough job with that quote? Another one of the podcasts you can talk to your friends and family about and ask, do you think Goz should have said anything to the Daily Gazette? Mm-hmm. Here's the thing. I could have said no comment. How does that look on me?
Sure.
I could have said, you guys heard all this stuff about digital. If I had said it was a digital performance-based issue, people are like, oh, okay. Like I sucked on Twitter or Facebook or something, or, like they wouldn't know. And I say that not saying that was the reason, but like people would have read that quote and probably would have been confused without context of the quote. Correct. If I had said digital and you heard all these things today, that's a whole different story. So that's why I had to share that. So I'll just close with this too, because the comments that were said in the Daily Gazette by my former employer, and if you saw me on Twitter, you know how I felt about that. I still feel like they were completely unnecessary, completely vague on purpose to prevent me from doing what I'm doing now. I felt as if it was an extreme attack on my character because they thought I would not come out or they feared that I would be negative, which hurt me. It hurt me a lot because the person who said that I considered a mentor in this business, and there's probably a chance he didn't even say it. Maybe someone told him he said that and he was forced to say that, or they had some type of COVID rule that said that. But I appreciate all the messages of people reaching out because that comment, someone once told me, maybe it was that weird guy on the skateboard who was drinking all that juice, was riding around listening to, was it Stevie Nicks?
Yep.
That some stuff just hits different. It hit different for me. If I had read that comment when I was 20, it would have hit me different than I was 25 or 31. Because when I read that comment, when you say it's performance-based and it's specific to Goz and you don't give any of this context of what happened, it feels like I let down my friends. I let down the people I worked with. I let down people who cared about the show. I let down my wife. And I'm a father now, so I'm trying my best to be a dad. And when you're a dad, and I'm learning this, you don't want to let down your son. And I just read those comments and I'm like, I felt like I let down my son. And I'm just trying to be a new dad. And I just read those comments and they hurt a lot. So I'm trying my best as a new father to make sure I set a good standard for my son. And it's a different world now in 2021. And if he Googles his dad's name and sees his dad didn't do a good enough job doing something, and he feels like his former employer put his character into question, it just hurts so much that my son 5 years from now or 10 years from now or 15 years from now can see his dad and say, Dad, why didn't it work out at that station? And I don't know if podcasts are going to be a thing 10 or 15 years from now, but I hope he gets to at least hear this one day and be like, all right, Dad, I know you tried your best. I know you got to go home and see me crawl that day, so it wasn't so bad, but that's the reason I got really upset about it, because I'm a new dad, and it just really hit that I didn't perform well enough for him. So usually in radio, I toss the break or hit an 8-second pause or like do something different at this point, but I'm getting used to radio, so now I'm just going to awkwardly transition to a live promotion for the podcast. I told you guys I wasn't going to edit anything, so I'm going to leave that in, and I felt like an idiot just doing that like a freaking crying baby, but that's the emotion, that's the realness of it, and yeah, go ahead, Close. I can just get ready for the awkwardly not do a live plug for the podcast after that. Sorry.
No, and honestly, I hope that if people you sat through the last 97 minutes to hear not only the beginnings, but at the everyday life that was, the grind of working to where you got to, and to not only have that hit you in a way that, no doubt, for me, we'll get into it when I get into my story of how it felt, as opposed to, having a wife and a kid, and to even think about that being the case. And I know that when Rex does look back on this, however long it's going to be, 5, 10, 15 years down the line, he's going to see that his dad grinded and worked to where he was. And I know in that futuristic time frame, whichever it is, 5, 10, 15 years down the line, that you're going to grind again and get back to where you want to be. And this goes back to those younger broadcasters, to where goals will change, things will change, and it might not always be for the worse. So, especially for you, man, as a friend, and I appreciate you having me here for this episode because of how emotional it is and how much people don't see this side of us on the radio. They hear us, they see what we write, but they don't see the inside grinding of what it really is like to be in this industry. And I think that you've done a tremendous job in this first episode to bring people in that moment to light, to where it's not just those 4 or 5 hours you hear every day on the radio. It's so much more than just that. And no matter what, you need to recognize that all those times that you bet on yourself, it was still worth betting on. And no matter what, it's time to double down. And I know that you will.
Well, thank you for saying that, man. And I'll just close with this, that a lot of people told me not to do this. And I got so many calls like, don't wreck your career. Don't go out and bash people. And I hope you listen to this and it wasn't a roast. And maybe you'll think back and say, you should have said this. You should have said that. Maybe that's true. Maybe I'll look back on this 6 months from now and say it was a mistake. But the reason I did it, it's not because I, put my career at risk. It's not because of the it's that I hope that when someone writes that about me, that my son will be proud when he looks back and says, Dad, I don't know what happened. Why are my friends asking about it? And I don't know. So that's why I want to get that real information out there, because the world's going to be different in the future. And I want to make sure my son knows I tried my best to make that place work. And hopefully my coworkers and my friends and my interns and all the people I've affected know that that's the truth. That's the true story that happened. I don't know what's going to happen after this. I know we're going to have another podcast. Closer. By the way, I'll just pull back the curtains. We're taping back to back here. So I'm going to get water, try to be professional. You already know what the podcast is. Follow me on Twitter at TomGoz, TOMGOZ. If you're listening to this on demand later on, I got to get used to all this podcast stuff that people can listen to this whenever they want. So that's going to be a part 2 episode. That's probably part 2 you just listened to because it went a lot longer than I thought. Closer, thank you for being patient with me. I really do appreciate it.
Man.
And enjoy the next podcast. Reach out, social media, email, Thomas.Kozlowski, THOMAS.Gozlowski. Go Slowski at gmail.com, Spotify, and everything else. Please rate, review, subscribe. Please, if there's anything from this podcast that I've been taught to do, just write a comment underneath. And if you enjoy the podcast, if you rate something nice, if you rate something mean, I'll read it. I will read everything. I've read every tweet, every email, every message. It's meant a lot to me. I guess I have to hit an end button. I just can't take my headphones off.
No.
So I'm going to hit end. And thanks, man. Let's get ready for the next one. Appreciate you, Closer.